The Nigerian Labour Congress is deeply concerned about the persistent violation of trade union rights and privileges in Imo State, despite repeated efforts to engage in a constructive dialogue with the state government and agreements reached. The Imo State Government has become habitual and serial breakers of agreements. We are worried, and we wish to state that on the first day of November 2023, we will be in Imo State to demonstrate our outrage and stop the continued violation of the rights and privileges of workers in that state. Unfortunately, the government has relied on its powers to deploy fierce and coercive forces of the state against trade unions and their leadership to continue on its line of action, which has allowed itself to be misled in its belief that the continued use of threats and intimidation will perpetually dissuade Nigerian workers from taking their destinies in their hands. It is on this note that we want to warn the Imo State Government that we would hold the governor accountable if anything happens to any worker or trade union leader in the course of this lawful protest. All the threats we have received of violence against our persons are noted, but we are not deterred. On the first day of November, we will begin this march to save workers in Imo State from the grievous harm the government has subjected them through these past years. Refusal to implement previous agreements. The government has repeatedly reneged on agreements, most notably the accord reached on January 9th, 2021 between the government and organized labor. Outstanding salary arrears, shockingly, some workers have been subjected to a staggering 20 months of unpaid salaries under the unfunded level of ghost workers. Unjust declaration of workers as ghost workers. Approximately over 11,000 hard-working individuals have been unjustly branded as ghost workers, their salaries diverted, even while they are diligently carried out their duties. Vandalization of NLC State Secretariat. The wanton destruction of the NLC State Secretariat is a blatant attack on the rights of workers and the violation of the sanctity of their representative body. Implementation of the discriminatory pay. The introduction of the discriminatory pay practice and the imposition of apartheid-like policies in determining monthly payments is an affront to fair labor practices. Unsettled gratuity arrears. The government has failed to address the 8-year backlog of gratuity owed to retirees, showing a grave disregard for the rights of those who have dedicated their careers in service. Non-compliance with the national minimum wage. The government has persistently shirked its duty to properly implement the 30,000 national minimum wage, a critical safeguard for the economic well-being of workers. Intimidation and harassment of trade union leaders. The government, which hunt against trade union leaders through various guises, constitutes an alarming assault on the right to represent and advocate for the rights of workers. Use of violence and threats. The continued deployment of thugs and violence against workers and their leaders is an unacceptable practice that undermines the democratic rights of workers. Misappropriation of union dues. The impoundment and illegal diversion of union dues, funds rightfully belonging to the unions, is a gross violation of the rights of workers to manage their collective resources. Declaration of pensioners as ghost workers. Approximately 10,000 pensioners have been wrongfully labeled as ghost pensioners, resulting in over 22 months of unpaid pensions, tragically leading to the loss of lives. and intimidation of workforce. The entire workforce is constantly subjected to threats of violence and sacked, creating an environment of fear and uncertainty. Resistance to social dialogue and collective bargaining. The government's persistent resistance to the use of instruments of social dialogue and collective bargaining is an affront to the principles of fair labor practices. Interference with workers' democratic processes. The violent interference and the disruption of Imo State Delegates Conference demonstrates a blatant attempt to impose favored candidates on the workers, undermining their democratic rights. Nigerian Labour Congress calls on all stakeholders, including civil society organizations, to stand in solidarity with the workers in Imo State in the face of these egregious violations. We implore the Imo State Government to honor its obligations and commit to respecting the rights and privileges of workers. As long as it refuses, we will continue in this course of action until we see the desired change. We are ready for industrial peace in the state, but the choice is entirely in the hands of the government of Imo State.